Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Circle City Conversations, where we sit down with attorneys, professionals, and leaders shaping the legal community here in Indianapolis. I am your host, Alex Limontes. Today's episode is a very important episode. Today, particularly with a lot of our population aging now. So today we're talking about nursing home cases, and cases that involve some of the most vulnerable people in our community.
Absolutely.
And joining me is attorney Catherine. I never call you Catherine. Catherine Karras, Katie Karras. Thanks, Katie, for being here.
Thank you for having me here again.
I think it's funny the tone of your voice when you're on the microphone. Isn't it totally different?
It's definitely different than when, let's say, I'm having an argument with a lien holder.
So, Katie, you have significant experience litigating these cases. You've worked with lawyers that are now retired, that have years of experience.
Correct. Who have aged out of practice.
They've aged out of practice.
Just like our population is aging into nursing home. And it's just the baby boomers. That's where they're aging into. So
yeah. And you've seen firsthand, and we're talking about the people that are in the nursing homes, but you've seen firsthand the challenges that the families face.
Absolutely.
Yeah, when something goes wrong. So I want to start here. Just kind of briefly let us know, for anyone listening that doesn't know how you got into the nursing home area.
Sure.
Like, how did you start handling nursing home cases?
So we had a law firm that was handling a substantial amount of the nursing home work in Indiana, and all of those, the four attorneys that were the primary handlers had been practicing probably for 30, 40 plus years, and all four of them retired about 4 or 5 years ago, and some of them still stay on and consult here and there, but they're really enjoying their retirement, and they transferred several of their cases to our law firm, and therefore we were finishing up handling those cases. And then I really felt like it was an area of the law that we needed to be helping out with. It's really important. It's really good work for these families and for the elderly that have been abused. And so we felt here at Hearst Limontes that we needed to continue that practice, and we've been handling those types of cases ever since.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, because I remember when we started taking those cases and you and I would talk about them, and I knew George for a long time and some of his partners. So one of the things for me that drew me to doing it was that this is an area of law that not a lot of people work in.
Correct.
It's
There's multiple
underrepresented.
reasons. Underrepresented. There are a couple of firms that do some work. Even the ones that do the work are very particular. And then a lot of law firms that do medical malpractice generally do not handle the nursing home neglect cases, especially if they include an adult that passes away without any legal dependents, meaning no dependent children, which most adults who are in nursing facilities do not have any legal dependents, and without a spouse, because Indiana places a limit on the amount you can recover. So those law firms have decided that financially it's just not worth it to help out that particular type of person. Not that they don't deserve the help or the care, but that financially there's a cap. And we have caps anyway, but this is a much lower cap than our medical malpractice cap that we have in Indiana.
So let's talk a little bit about that. Nurse, you mentioned and hinted towards it. What is a major difference that you've seen having handled both medical malpractice cases and nursing home cases? What are some of the big differences there?
So nursing home, I personally see nursing home neglect cases as more of a premises liability claim versus a very detailed medical malpractice claim, like against a doctor for doing a bad surgery or having a post-operative complication. Very, very doctor, physician, medical driven. And I'm not saying that we do not have to do a lot of medical research on our cases, but for me, the liability is one of premises. You have staff, nursing staff, that are different levels of qualification that are responsible for caring for, paying attention, and being properly actually staffed enough people to care for these elderly people to make sure that they don't dehydrate and die. They don't get pressure ulcers from not being turned or moved or repositioned, and they do not fall or are dropped. And that usually deals with a lack of staffing, not enough staff, or lack of properly trained staff, or staff that's maybe there but is not paying attention to the residents like they're supposed to. So I first and foremost, I see it as it's a premises case that this family has entrusted their loved one who is incapable of caring for themselves. And also the family is either incapable of caring for that person due to distance, due to time, they work full time or they have their own family, or that person requires more assistance than the family can provide.
Okay.
And these facilities are paid. Just like if you go into a grocery store, you are a paying customer and you are entitled to have a safe premises to be at when you're purchasing your items. In my opinion, these nursing home residents are entitled and deserve to have the care that is being paid for, whether it's self-pay, whether some sort of health insurance or benefit is paying for it. And the nursing facilities have accepted those people as residents and accepted the payment. It's a contract. And they've accepted payment to care for them, and they have to provide the services and the safety that they contracted to provide. And so that's how I initially see the cases on a liability standpoint. Obviously, whether we can succeed in them or take the cases are very medically dependent, and that mostly has to do with other health issues and the damages and the causation on the damages, everything we see on our rest of our cases. But for me, they turn on that particular issue.
I was looking at one of your complaints the other day on the press release we just did.
Yeah.
What's the name of that facility up north?
Oh, the Waters of Wakarusa.
Yeah. So honestly, I was thrown back a little bit when I saw the breach of contract claim.
Always.
I was like, that's not something you see every day.
100% of our nursing facility cases, we file breach of contract.
Does that change your statute?
Well, I mean, it's not because it's not just a wrongful death. It's not just a negligence. We always put the contract in there because it's not just somebody happened to be there. You had a contract.
Yeah.
There's always an admission agreement. And the facility has the ability to decline a resident if they feel upon admission assessment or upon request for transfer, either from home from the family or if they're coming from a hospital, they have the ability to say that this resident requires too much and we cannot provide it. So then when we get into the case and the defense says you require too much care, you're the care that this resident required is more than we can provide, and the family should have realized that, we go back to the contract. Because at any point in time...
That's a defense.
All the time.
Well, they accepted the person.
Correct. We go back and say, if the resident's condition changed during the course of residency while they were living there, if they changed, then you have the ability upon your reassessments to say, we can't handle this resident, this patient anymore, and they need to be transferred somewhere else. Or if you want additional help, you have to hire in additional help. They have that every time they go and reassess, because they have to do reassessments all the time. And they have to reassess if there's a substantial change in condition.
So earlier you mentioned common injuries, and I think this is going to be a good part of the podcast for people that have people they know, loved ones in nursing homes, because that's usually where it starts. From what I see with the clients, they come in, they call you, they're like, I saw a pressure ulcer or something like that. So you listed some. I want to talk a little bit more, just about them and what you commonly see. So pressure ulcers, tell me about those.
So pressure ulcers, also known as bed sores.
Yeah.
Traditionally, you see them on what we call the coccyx, which is kind of where the back meets the bottom.
Yeah.
And it's from lack of turning, lack of repositioning. People who are elderly are subject to skin breakdown. There can be other health issues that lead to you being more susceptible. And sometimes we say it's an injury that should never happen.
Yeah.
It should never occur. Sometimes if people are in the most end stages of life, the body is breaking down anyway. So there are certain times where we see it, and there's nothing we can claim because the body is breaking down. However, even if somebody is debilitated, it's not something you should see because they should be repositioning at least every 2 hours. Yeah. We see it mostly in that area. We do see it on other areas of the body, sometimes on the back of the heels. If someone is laying down and they don't have the proper mattress or foam or essentially pressure relieving. Any place where someone would be laying, usually on their back, and not moving. Yeah. Any place where that body would be subject to, lack of movement, and then the skin, essentially, it breaks down. So we do see it there, and then once they have it, if it gets to be too substantial, we talk about stage 2, stage 4, 3, stage 4. Stage 4 is where we really see a problem, where you can't get it to
like an infection.
Oh yeah. I mean, sometimes we see it to the bone.
Oh my gosh.
To the bone. And so if you see the beginnings of skin breakdown, that in and of itself, that's not going to be something we can take. If you get it to the point where they had a little bit and then it worsens and worsens and worsens, that they're not doing what they're supposed to do to heal it, to clear it, reposition, and then it gets to be to the point where we're talking stage 4, and like I said, to the bone. Yeah. And then you have people who are, incontinent, where they're going to the restroom, and then that gets into it. It's kind of infected. Like, yes, it's just a cascade of events. Yeah. And so that's something that we see. And when we see that occurring, especially if it's a pretty significant staging ulcer that has not cleared, then those are cases that we usually feel like there's been malpractice there. Not 100%, we have to review it, but that's pretty significant.
Common. What about falls? Or drops.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Those are different, but falls and drops, obviously we see that quite often. So let's go with drops. If somebody is dropped by a staff member, that's a problem. Yeah. That's a significant problem. Or if somebody is left alone by a staff member, they were changing them, they were moving them, they were wheeling them, they took them to the shower and they fell and they knew they were a fall risk. And so that's really the first thing. Did you know this person was a fall risk? And then you left them. Most people who are fall risk, most people who are unable to move themselves and get up and go to the restroom and are not mobile independently, normally do require two staff members to move them. So if somebody's trying to do it alone and they leave them or they can't handle them and they drop them, that's a problem. And we usually believe that that's malpractice. If someone falls, an independent isolated fall on somebody who isn't a fall risk or isn't what we call an elopement risk, meaning they're likely to get up out of bed due to confusion, isolated, especially with not a significant injury, is probably not something that we can take. But if you have someone who's a known fall risk, who is someone who's known to get out of bed, and the facility hasn't done much, if anything, to lessen those chances. They refused to put bed alarms up. They didn't put the railings up. They didn't lower the bed. They didn't put mat. The call light wasn't in reach, those types of things. And there's no one size fits all. And the nursing facilities do try to claim that those are considered restraints. We can't restrain someone in their home. Yeah. But we find that there are certain types of restraints, if you will, or alarms and other options that we see happen in hospitals. Same people, they're in the hospital, then they're transferred to a facility. Well, if the hospital did it, and the hospital could do it, and those people were kept safe in the hospital, and then the very next day they go to the nursing facility, and the nursing facility says, oh, no, we can't do any of that stuff, and then they're injured, then you have to question, was that really the right decision? Right. Did the facility do right by this person, especially if they knew going in that this person was likely to roll out of bed, try to get out of bed, fall, because they're in a new location. Mm-hmm. They're not in their home or at a hospital where they've been at for a month. They're in all new people. There's been a lot of commotion usually when they're transferred, and they're confused. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, you have to think, everyone says, like, when you become older, you become more like a toddler. So you got to think you're more likely to be injured. But would you be surprised if your young child was in an unknown place and tried to get out of bed? Yeah, right. You're not going to be surprised. That happens. And so the same thing happens with our elderly that are suffering from dementia and confusion. Yeah. And so if you signed a contract saying that you'll keep them safe and you know they're likely to get out of bed, and you have their bed on the highest position with nothing preventing them from rolling out or climbing out on the side, and you have no floor mat, and they fall and they break their neck, or they get a brain bleed, they break their hip, did you treat them right?
Right.
Or did you commit malpractice? Was that negligent?
Yeah.
Did you fulfill your end of the contract to keep them safe for the payment you received to keep them?
Yeah. So for a family who has someone in a nursing home facility, what do you think some of the warning signs are that they should be looking for, paying attention to?
So first and foremost, we always recommend you take a look at their ratings.
Yeah.
Their ratings online, their Google reviews, all kinds of ways that the internet research can show you are there issues. You can the website that lists all of the medical malpractice claims that facilities have received. It's not the easiest to read, but it is.
Yeah.
It is, publicly available. The Indiana.
We'll put that on.
Yeah, IndianaPCF.com. It is a publicly available website, and you can search it by organization name, and you can see how many malpractice claims did this facility have.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
And is it a couple over the last 20 years, or is it a couple over the last 2 years? Is it 15 to 20 claims since they've been open? And so there are ways to do some research that way. What's hard is that a lot of the facilities do have bad reviews. You're more likely to encounter a facility with bad reviews than you are to encounter a facility with good reviews, and so that's where the issue is. Not saying they're not out there, but it is difficult to find them. And honestly, being present.
Yes.
And it doesn't mean that one person has to be the only person that's present, but does your loved one have multiple family members that live in the area? Friends, people from your community, your church, neighbors. Can there be somebody that's there regularly, multiple times a week, even if it's just for a little bit? Because that shows the facility that if they start neglecting your loved one, they're not feeding them. They're not giving them, enough to drink. They're not ensuring that they're drinking. They're ensuring that they're going to the bathroom. They're not doing their lab work. They're not getting them up and moving. They're not bathing them regularly. They said that they're keeping them safe in their room, but none of the items I mentioned before, like the mat, they're not in there. Or your loved one, maybe your loved one does have some signs of dementia, but is able to communicate. Is your loved one saying, I put my call light on multiple times and no one ever comes, or so-and-so nurse isn't nice to me. Your mere presence makes people more accountable.
Oh, yeah.
So once you place someone there, then I think being present as much as you can be. I mean, obviously, if you could be present 24 hours a day, you wouldn't have them in a facility. And that's completely understandable. But if someone can be there fairly regularly, because what we see sometimes, especially it's not as much of a thing anymore, like during COVID when families just weren't allowed to visit. I mean, people would go months without being able to lay eyes on their loved one, especially if these people were from out of town. You have a family that lives out of state. It's COVID. They know they can't actually see their loved one, so they're not making the travel. And they think if they call the facility and talk to the nurse, that's enough. It's just not. It's the laying eyes and being present.
Yeah,
I think helps the most. Can it prevent everything? No, but it also lets you know if something is starting to become a problem.
Yeah.
Then you can make the decision about keeping them there, transferring them to another facility. Do they need to go back to the hospital? Do they need to go for a check with an outside physician? So it helps you to gauge if something is starting to go down the wrong path.
You should put cameras in the rooms.
I do have some clients who have done that.
Nanny cams and things like that.
Yeah. The facility doesn't like it, but
well, of course not. But the facility should put cameras in the room. Like, have you seen those like puppy playground places where they let you see all the dogs playing?
Correct. Yes,
I
believe
the same thing.
I want to say I read an article recently. Well, maybe like a year ago that Ohio was either implementing that in all of their facilities.
Yeah.
I mean, Indiana hasn't done it. Every law in Indiana is just taking rights away from plaintiffs
Right.
and patients across the board, not just in nursing home. But I'm pretty sure Ohio passed a law either allowing it or mandating it, something about CAMs in nursing facilities.
Yeah.
So we could definitely take a page out of a book on these states that protect. One of the things that we get really upset about here, that working on these nursing facility cases is that Indiana ranks 50 out of 50 in understaffing.
Wow. I was going to ask you about understaffing.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the biggest issue. That's the biggest issue. I mean, that's why we have so many claims, is because the facilities are not staffed properly. And a lot of people don't really understand it, and they wouldn't know unless you are in there in the thick of it doing the research, is that a majority of our nursing homes that are qualified, meaning they're covered by our Medical Malpractice Act, are owned by county hospitals.
Which ones? There's a few of them, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, which facilities or which hospitals?
Well,
I mean, so many of them. I mean, Hendricks Regional Health owns a lot. Johnson Memorial Hospital owns some. I'm pretty sure Hancock owns some, and so it's several of them. And it's interesting because you'll have Hendricks Regional Health owning a facility that's up in northern Indiana. They're not even close.
Yeah.
And Johnson Memorial Hospital owns some of them that are up. They're nowhere near. It's not like Johnson Memorial Hospital owns the hospitals that are in the county.
Yeah.
They're owning them far, far away because they just purchase them when they go up for sale. But what they do is they take the Medicaid money, because a lot of these elderly receive the beds because it's what they call a Medicaid bed, meaning they can't afford to self-pay the $3,000, $4,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a month that it would cost to live in that facility. They get approved for Medicaid. Medicaid pays the fee every month, and they're substantial, as you know. It's very expensive. And then the hospital that owns the facility takes the money, the per bed money that the nursing home is making, and they don't reinvest it into staffing. They don't reinvest it into the facility. They take it and they divert it to the hospital.
Yes.
For huge, big renovations, so that you have this beautiful hospital with all these bells and whistles, so that the people that live in that area where the hospital is want to go to that hospital and spend their money so they can get their health insurance money and all their self-pay money, or they use it to pay their CEOs more money. But they're diverting it from our most vulnerable population where the money was intended to go. Medicaid did not say, we will pay this nursing facility $4,000 a month or whatever they're paying for you to then not use it to care for this person. You're instead using it to pay your CEO that is, 100 miles away and to have a new emergency room.
Right. Isn't that crazy?
But that's not making the news.
Yeah. No, and you literally see these, especially some of these county hospitals, you see them popping up off 74. You head out, right, the Brownsburg exit. Yeah. Right there. They just built that in the last few years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And that's crazy. So they're diverting money from the nursing homes. It's just a profit center for them.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's why they own so many.
Right.
And because it's just a moneymaker. And then, our lawmakers are not requiring that they utilize the money for what the intended purpose is. And they're not allowing and enacting laws that protect these people. And then they're making it harder and harder for people like us to pursue the cases to protect them.
Yeah.
And then in the news, it looks like we're the ones that are, trying to take advantage of the system or whatever, the money grab, all the things that we're saying. And here we are just trying to protect these elderly people and get either them or their families the recovery that they deserve, which we already know has been substantially limited by our lawmakers.
Yeah.
Because they place an all things considered, a substantially low value on the life of these elderly persons.
Yeah.
It's the lowest recovery that you can receive for a person's life.
Yeah. How much is that again?
So it's up to $300,000 for loss of love and companionship of your loved one.
Yeah.
plus attorney fees if they'll allow for you to obtain those, and then the cost of the medical and funeral.
Yeah.
So, which is much lower than any other limit we have for our tort claim limits, anything like that.
If we talked about qualified providers purchasing nursing homes.
Mm-hmm.
If someone is injured in a nursing home owned by a qualified medical provider, do they still have to go through the medical panel review process?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
And that process 5 to 7 years usually.
The whole process can take up to 5 to 7 years. The way I describe the anything that has to go through the medical malpractice process is, I call it's like 3 trials.
Yeah.
So you have the first trial, if you will, the first case, which is the discovery, the investigation. You get the whole chart. You figure out what happened. You find out who was taking care of them, who wasn't, all the normal things you would do in a case, all the investigation. And then you present it in written format to a panel of 3 healthcare providers that will review the care, and they each get to make an independent decision. And once that decision occurs, if we win at least one, then you can move on. If we don't win any, which happens, and we really do believe the case has merit, and we're able to have another expert opine, then we can move forward. And then we have the second trial, which is, it's the same we've already done the investigation, but it's what we would normally do on the first part in regular cases, auto accidents, is you go into state court. And that's when you say, okay, now it's time for the money. Okay, we've won the panel. We got the opinion of the malpractice. Now it's time to discuss the money. And then you actually sue the facility. You sue the nursing home. And that's when the lawsuit in our state or federal courts occur. And then if you obtain a policy limits from the healthcare providers, then if the damages do allow for it, we have our third case or our third trial, and that is a damages only, because at that point in time, once the healthcare provider settles, liability is established and cannot be argued anymore. This is only a damages claim against the Indiana Patients Compensation Fund, which is an excess fund that the healthcare providers pay into through a surcharge on their health and their malpractice premiums and their insurance premiums, and they pay into this fund. And then the fund is managed through the state of Indiana, and attorneys defend it. And it's defended, again, only on damages, and it doesn't go to a jury trial. It's a damages hearing with a judge in our state of Indiana, in our state courts. And usually it's a half day or full day trial if you're not able to settle it before you get to that point. So no jury trial for that third stage. So you have your medical providers, and then potentially you wouldn't have a jury trial, because if you had a jury trial for the second part instead of settling, then the jury can determine the full amount.
Oh, okay.
They do. So if they determine the full amount, then the healthcare provider would pay their portion, and then the fund would pay their portion. So you would only need to have the third part if you settle. That's how that's handled.
Seems like that creates a lot of additional hurdles for plaintiffs in nursing home cases.
Correct, which is going back to the very first topic we talked about, is that there's very few people that do it. So if you know that you're going to have a limited recovery anyway, due to the cap on the adult wrongful death statute, and then you know that means and you have a limit. The attorneys do have a limit on their attorney fees. Yep. Which is slightly lower than most attorney fee contracts. And then you know that the recovery is limited, and it'll take 3, 5, 7 years, and expenses will be high. Yeah. It's you really have to want to do this. Yeah. You really have to want to help the families.
And the cases they're just so medical heavy. Like there's so much medical to get through.
Correct. Yes, to get through, to review, to point out to the panel what all the failures were, because the reality is I can say I feel like it's a premises case all I want, and that's my knee jerk. That's how I see it. But to prove the malpractice, because it's our burden, to prove the malpractice to the panel of healthcare providers who practice in similar areas. I mean, I always say it's like the fox guarding the hen house, right? Because the healthcare providers that are reviewing the care are usually practicing in the same or very similar areas. So you're saying to them, this system is broken, and this person wasn't cared for, and those people might be doing the same to their own patients. So we hope that that's not occurring. But yeah, it's a long road
Mhm.
for not a never a windfall.
Yeah.
But the families, they believe that their loved one was wronged and
Mhm.
either injured or taken away from them prematurely. And so it is the principle. It's about the money, but it's also about the principle, holding them accountable, making it publicly known that there was neglect.
My family immigrated here from Cuba after Fidel Castro took over, and this government took everything from my family, and that attracted me to be a lawyer. Insurance companies can be like bullies, and they have a lot of resources behind them. Give us a call here at Hearst Limontes. We are protective of our clients because our clients matter and you matter. At Hearst Limontes, we're a firm that believes in people. We don't just talk about justice or fairness, we live it. The Indiana Fever are trailblazers. They inspire not only in how they play, but how they lead in our Indiana community. Being a father changes everything. Supporting the Fever is one way that I show my kids what it means to believe in fairness, to believe in respect and possibility. At Hearst Limontes, we believe in those same things. The Fever stand for resilience, grit, determination, and heart. They aren't just a basketball team. They're a symbol of what's possible when you refuse to give up. Their impact ripples far beyond the court, and you can see it in the energy, pride, and hope that they create in our city. Whether you're a young girl dreaming of playing in the WNBA or a kid in a small town dreaming of becoming a lawyer, you belong. This partnership is proof of that. At Hearst Limontes, we believe in standing up for those people that are overlooked. From court to court, Hearst Limontes is your winning team. Right. I want to shift gears for a little bit. So you recently took some long weekend trips to Key West and New Orleans, right?
I did. Wasn't
So-
expecting this as part of the.
No nursing home questions now. So Key West versus New Orleans, they both have totally different vibes. I've never been in New Orleans, but I know a lot of people have. We talked to Jason Schartzer, right? And he had been there a bunch of times. He loves New Orleans. He's in the parade. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yeah, he's in the parade. That's crazy.
That is
So Key West versus New Orleans, how would you compare the two?
Oh, it is a completely different vibe. It's kind of funny because Key West is like where retired people go to party. I mean, there are all ages there.
Right.
But it's where the retired people go to party. And then New Orleans, when we were there, it was definitely not during Mardi Gras. I could not do that. Is where like the fraternities go to party. And so definitely a lot later noise in New Orleans.
Yeah.
I mean, the vibe is like fun and chill. Honestly, I felt like chill both places. But you go there for a completely different thing to do. And of course, I went with my boyfriend, and he had not been to either place. I had been to both places before, but had not experienced exactly stayed where we stayed. I think he was thinking that Key West is going to be full of beaches.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's beaches there, but it really isn't. It's mostly there check out the food.
Yeah.
Check out the sites. Do something fun.
Go to a drag show.
Yeah. There's so much fun. So many fun things to do.
Wild.
Luckily for us, our weather was great at both locations.
Yeah.
And so we really just wanted to, the things that were the same is they each have these little. I thought they kind of looked similar. The architecture was similar. The buildings were similar. And so there are little streets where you can go down, and there's bars, and there's shops and all kinds of fun things. So I actually felt like just the vibe when you were in town, if you will, were similar. Both places we were only going to be there for a couple days. We wanted to stay in the thick of it, not like right in the middle, but close enough.
Yeah.
So and got to hear some fun music and really eat some good food. And I enjoyed in Key West finding some places that we could eat like near the water.
Oh yeah.
We did jet skiing, which was my very first time ever like really on a jet ski. I mean, I had like been on one probably like
Did you have a helmet
lake.
on?
I did not.
I know some people that do that.
No, I did not need that. But I will say when I was driving, which definitely was my first time ever driving, like I didn't like the sunglasses like didn't have like the sides on them, and I was getting like all this water and wind. It was just so much, and so we actually had to switch sunglasses. So I remember that because I was like, I'm not gonna be able to finish driving this. But in New Orleans, we didn't do jet skis, but we did an alligator.
Oh yeah.
Tour on this like little like fan boats.
Yeah,
airboats.
Airboat.
Yeah, that was cool. So we went on one. There was just us and then like another family. It was a couple. It was her birthday and their 2 grown sons. And so because I guess it was the smallest group, we got the gentleman that runs. He doesn't like own the waters, but he runs that company.
Yeah.
And so he's like talking about how his like dad used to run it, and he like knew where all these alligators were. Yeah. And like he had names for them. And he was talking about like the harvesting of them, and
awesome.
And he took us to where like some of the biggest were, and he actually stopped the boat one time and he pet one. He pet one. Wow. Went right up to him. And he's like petting it and touching it. And he's talking about how they're like pretty like gentle animals, which is not at all what I would have expected. But he said that's how they're different from crocodiles. And he said he describes them as comparable to cats.
Oh.
That they kind of just want to be left alone. Yeah. But when they see you in the area, then they're curious. And that's why they come out and they're like looking around, and they're not trying to be aggressive or attack you. Yeah. But I will tell you that I would pet a cat, but I would not pet an alligator. But I also know that like I would never chase a cat either. So I wouldn't chase a dog either. But that's because of what I do. But that was our kind of like interesting, like fun event that we did. It took most of the day, and it was really cool. I'm so glad that we did it because I mean, when are you gonna be? Right. You can't do that here.
Not gators, no. Even though my kids do ask me whenever we go to the lake, Daddy, are there gators in here? No, or sharks.
Sharks.
Are there sharks in here? Well, funny you talked about chasing a cat because I've done all the things. Chased a cat, I've chased a gator, and I've pet an alligator. And I saw a guy kill an alligator and then barbecue it. So goodness. That was in Florida, Central Florida, with the airboats. He made his own airboat.
Oh.
Like he was Central Florida country boy. So
we also enjoyed some blues music when we were in New Orleans. So that was fun just to see this amazing talent. And they're everywhere. You know, you here, if you want to see amazing talent, there's only a handful of places, and you have a really, high cover, and you have to get your tickets months in advance. And here we are, like one night we go to 4 different bars and we see 4 different amazing bands.
Yeah, that's awesome. For anyone listening, okay, who may have a loved one in a nursing home right now, when should they consider speaking to an attorney if something happens?
I think when it happens.
Okay.
I think if something significant has happened and you feel that your loved one's life is potentially at risk, you can speak to us. However, I think the most important thing to do is to consider that you need to speak with somebody, and you can call us, but action is the most important in removing them.
Yeah.
Because some people do think that I can remove someone for them.
Yeah.
Or that I can get involved and talk to the nursing facility and make them change their ways. And
that may make it worse.
No nursing facility wants to hear from an attorney. at all. In fact, it probably, would make the care, get them discharged right. They'll get them kicked out even if they're not ready to remove them.
Yeah.
So the most important thing is, they say, see something, say something. If you see something and you've tried to work it out with the facility and they're not changing their ways, or you feel as though your loved one is at risk, is get them moved.
Yeah.
Get them moved to another facility. Make sure someone is there regularly. Mm-hmm. Be an advocate. You can report them. You can report them to the Department of Health. You can report them to your local, authorities that handled this, And so there are ways to get somebody that's involved with the healthcare and involved with the licensing and for protection of these persons, that you can ask to speak with the physician that's in charge. And so there's ways to protect them while they're still in there. Now, if something happens to the point where we have, serious injury and you want to make a claim, then yes, contact us right away. We will guide you through those steps on making the claim. But as far as actual treatment and removal, we as trial lawyers and litigators, we can't get involved in that.
You think it's a good idea? Let's say your parent is in a nursing home. You think it's a good idea to ask the nursing home to keep either give you access to the medical records or my chart, or update you regularly with the records?
So most nursing facilities aren't on like an online MyChart,
No.
Which is why we find it so difficult to get the records.
Yeah.
Because they're not like hospitals. There's no part of their website that says log
they don't
into
have the money, right? They don't want to spend the money on it.
Yeah, they don't. They do have like an electronic record, but they are not facilitated for patient access.
Yeah.
They just aren't.
Yeah.
So, and they go in there and they change and they update the records even late. A lot of late entries we see, especially when there is, issues with care. But as if your loved one is still alive, the only person that's going to be able to request those are either the loved one by signing something or a POA.
Yeah.
Once, if they have passed, then there are certain family members that can request a spouse, a child, things like that. It is a violation of the standard of care to not, it's a health violation through the state to not allow access to them. Now, we find that a lot of facilities don't want to cooperate in that, and especially if they know they did something wrong.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Katie, thank you so much for coming on.
Of course, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, there's that voice again. There she is.
My advocacy is over.
Yeah. These are incredibly important cases.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And I think this conversation really helps people understand what's at stake. Thank you to everyone for listening to another episode of Circle City Conversations. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow us, to share, to subscribe, and stay tuned for more conversations with the people shaping our legal community here in Indianapolis. We'll see you next time.